In this video I'm going to go through this problem. This is the file. Why is it not working? Okay, so this is the file and this is the R&D data. So this is the sheet that we're going to use. So this file is basically data of Johnson & Johnson, Pfizer and AstraZeneca's R&D expenses. Okay, this data set is not tidy, it's very messy. So when you open the Excel file, you'll see that the first thing you need to do when you read the file, you need to ignore the first three rows. So those three rows are unnecessary. In the screenshot I forgot to take the row 1, so anyway when you open you will understand what's going on. So we don't need those three rows. Then the data is untidy. If you notice, you'll see that the years are given separately by columns. What we need to do, we need to have a variable called year which would represent the years. Okay, and these two columns are unnecessary, code and currency. Once you know this, that the values are given in USD, you don't need to keep a variable, say currency, or at least for this example we just ignore them. So that's the goal. Okay, and also this code, I'm going to ignore this code variable. Okay, let's fire up our studio. I have the code here, but I want to show you what's going on. When I import Excel, if I locate the file, make sure you have created a project. Okay, otherwise you won't be able to locate the file just the way I'm doing currently. Okay, so this is the file, W10 data stream. Okay, alright, here is the data. So by default it's identifying the R&D sheet. So as you can see, the first three rows and frequency, name, these three rows are unnecessary. So what I need to do, we need to skip them. So I just put 3, and if I just click somewhere here, or yeah, I just click somewhere, it gets updated. See? Okay, so now we have skipped the first three rows. We'll just read the file, then we'll do manipulation using dplyr or tidyr functions. Okay, so if you just copy the code, you'll be good to go. Okay, anyway, I have already, the code is already here, so I'm calling it dfrnd, and this is the function read Excel, comes from read Excel. So you locate give the path of your file, so it's under the data folder in my case, and I am specifying the sheet, it's research and dev, and I'm saying okay, skip 3 rows. For example, if I just run this part, you'll see that it does the job. See, the first 3 rows are being ignored. Okay, so let me store these as dfrnd. Okay, dfrnd is here now. Okay, just to confirm that it's working, see, dfrnd is working. Now, as I said, I don't want some variables, and these are the variable code and currency. Their position is 2 and 3. So one way of dropping them is putting their position, but put the minus sign. So select -2, -3. I could have used the variable names as well, so whichever you prefer. Okay, so if I just run until this, you'll see the columns are vanished. I mean those columns. Okay, now the problem is this thing. We need to create a variable year and since these data are R&D data, so we need to have a variable called R&D. So what we need to make, we need to use the function called pivot longer to make the data long. So if you can recall, the first argument is columns. So calls, we should say these columns are giving me a problem, and there are many ways to indicate that. One way is to specify the column numbers. For example, there are 32 columns. I could have said columns 2 to 32. That's one way of saying that. Another way would be from 1990 colon 2020. Okay, that's another way of doing it, but here I'm showing it, okay, except column 1. So this is the position, except this, all other columns are giving me trouble, so we need to reshape them. So that's another way of indicating the columns. And then these are the names of the columns currently. So 90, 90, 90. So these are basically names. So names should go to under some variable, and I'm calling it year, and these values should go under some variables, so I'm calling it R&D. Okay, now if I run up to this part, you'll see that it does the job. See, it does the job. Now we have a variable called name, we have a variable called year, and R&D. Life is good. But if you pay attention here, the year variable, these are basically numbers, right? So since these are numbers, I just want to convert them into integer. The function is as dot integer, so I want to coerce them, and as usual we'll use the mutate function. So mutate, we are modifying the variable rather than creating. So year becomes as dot integer. So if I run up to this, see, it has become integer. Okay, all right, now let's have a look at this thing. The names are too long. Why? The thing is that the data provider provides the data in this fashion. So name dash the the code or the data type. So what we can do, we can create two new variables. One would be containing the names, and another would be containing the variable, or the information of the data type, research and development. But instead, what I'm doing here, I'm creating a variable CNAME, only having this name, Johnson and Johnson. So anything after the and including actually the dash would be ignored. So we need to use the function separate. So here is the separate function. So which variable do we need to separate? Apply the separate function. This is the variable name, and we want to separate into. So this is the argument into, and I'm saying, okay, create two variables, actually one variable, CNAME. So this one would be CNAME, and another would be after the dash. So I'm saying do not create any variable NA, and as I said already, so the separated is this thing, the dash. Okay, so if I run this part, let's see what happens. See, it has only kept the names before the dash. Had I wanted to create two new variables, just let me go back. Okay, before the step of before using separate. So this was the case. Before using separate, the names were too big, right? So as I said, either you could have a variable called name, another could be data type. If we wanted to do that, we just could have said, okay, use the separate function, apply it on the variable name, and create two new variables. Another would be, let's say, data type. Okay, so if I run this now, see, there are now two variables, cname, data type, and year RD. Okay, so I don't want data type because I already know this is R&D data. So I'm just going to say here separate name, create a variable called cname, and that's it. So if I run up to this, just show you again, so it has just only kept the names. All right, so after this part, the data is tidy. Okay, but not but rather you can once the data is tidy, you can do whatever you want. You can store it, for example, let's say you can store it as, again, let's say df_rnd, oops, df_rnd, let me call it rnd2 just to show you an example. If I can save it, store it, so it has not, something is wrong. What went wrong? Okay, because there was pipe, I just need to do, okay, so if I run this part, no, I made mistake because there was problem here. I made a mistake. Control Z. Okay, so df_rnd2. Okay, if I run, okay, see there is df_rnd2, and that's our tidy data. Now we can plot whatever we want or any statistics that we would like to generate. So I'm going to generate a time series plot, so line plots. So I'm not going to store it, I'm going to rather generate the plot in one shot. So up to these we have tidy data, so data is tidy. Now we can use ggplot. So here is ggplot. So here is my pipe operator. I'm just going to, so this is ggplot. So on the x-axis we have year, and the values are given in 1000. So what I'm doing, I'm expressing them in billions, so dividing it by millions here, 1 is 6. Okay, and I'm going to color the company names, so this is under aesthetics, and I'm going to use the geom line and geom plot point. So if I run now, there you go, that's the plot we wanted to generate. Alrighty then, see you in the next video. Bye bye.